Gracias for tuning in once more for the Horror Show's convention coverage here at Scarefest 8, and it is my pleasure and honor to be seated with a legend within this genre we all love so much, Mr. George Romero. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing tremendous. Very happy to be seated beside you. I know I'm looking kind of freakish at the moment, right? Yet I'm not quite the type of character you're used to dealing with, being an icon as far as, just really popularizing zombies, which you've seen with the growth of The Walking Dead and all of that, that they're about as in vogue as they ever have been, correct?
Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately for me and some of us that would rather work inexpensively and stay under the radar, I used to be the only guy doing it. So now everybody's doing it. So.
Exactly. As far as being a big fish in a small pond or that sort of thing, now it's a very populated pond, am I right?
Yeah, it is. It is. So the last 2 years I've been doing a comic book for Marvel, and that's one more issue to come out, and then I'll be looking for work.
Well, I was going to say, I did read a recent Variety story that Empire of the Dead is a story that you're developing for television, correct?
Yeah, we're hoping. It's being developed. It was picked up by a production company.
Okay.
And we'll see. You never know. They have to, it's a long road.
It's
Gotta
still
shoot a pilot, see if someone actually wants to show it. So it's not a done deal, but.
So still very much in the developmental phase then.
Yeah. The books aren't even finished yet. So I think the last issue comes out this month or next month.
Okay, and the books tie in with the series then, correct?
The series would be based on the books, yeah. 15 books.
Excellent, excellent. So since you've dealt so much with zombies, as far as dealing with other types of horror, I know that you've done anthology work with Mr. Stephen King, most notably. Those were some of my favorite memories, the work on the original Creepshow. Do you like doing short form, like a TV type thing, or a smaller segment in a film versus just a long narrative in a feature?
I think I would much rather do something long, which is why I've done this. Is now the second comic book series that I've done. So 15 books. It's like the equivalent of probably 5 movies, and I prefer a longer form. If I had my druthers, I would have been a novelist rather than a filmmaker. So I prefer to work in longer forms. But I love doing Creepshow, and I actually did a TV series called Tales from the Darkside.
I'm familiar with it.
So years ago, and that looks like that might be getting revived.
Yes.
So we'll see. I don't have an aversion to short form. I used to love the Twilight Zone. Outer Limits, all that stuff. But I personally prefer a longer piece.
Yeah, it's interesting because the King connection is there for the Tales from the Darkside revival, because didn't his son Joe Hill, he was the one really spearheading the project?
He wrote a pilot for the new Tales from the Darkside, but I don't think that got picked up.
Yeah, I had heard the same, regrettably, so.
Yeah, too bad. But it looks like it's active again.
That's exciting news to hear. So obviously, I'm assuming you're implying with working in issues and longer form, you always had such great character development in those zombie films like Dawn of the Dead. It wasn't all blood and gore. You actually allowed the characters to connect with the audience, which is why it meant more when they kind of bit the dust, right?
I hope so. I mean, I always consider them, the zombies are basically a given, and the stories are about people and the stupid and improper ways that they behave, and it's really about the people are the important characters, how they fail. It's all about how people fail in crises, fail to communicate, fail to act appropriately, and all that.
They always felt very allegorical to me in the way that you kind of approach the narrative, which I appreciate, because so much horror today, it's really like about as deep as a kiddie pool, as I like to say. So,
well, unfortunately I agree with you. I mean, I think that's true. It's nobody seems to worry about what's happening underneath, and what's the story really about.
So as far as recent zombie films, is there any you think have actually been quality, live up to the high benchmark that you've set over the years?
I haven't seen any that that I really thought were great. I actually I thought World War Z was a spectacular thing, but a spectacular film. But I don't know. My zombies can't run. I don't believe zombies, dead people, would be able to run, especially undercranked so that they're running faster. So I didn't like the remake of Dawn for that reason and other reasons. But I loved Shaun of the Dead, but that's not really recent anymore. I haven't seen Fido. I thought was good, and
I have to ask if you've seen Warm Bodies.
I haven't seen it. Is that a film or a TV series?
It's a film. It's of a similar kind of humorous vein, kind of a humorous approach. Do you like when guys like Sam Raimi take the zombies to a more comedic area, or do you think that doesn't work as well?
I wouldn't do it. Let me put it that way, because my films are more satirical. They're basically social satires rather than just zombie films. So I'm not. I don't do it for the sake of scaring people or for the sake of just making a bloody film. I'm trying to say something. Social satire more than anything else.
I was going to bring up the Dawn of the Dead remake, but you kind of beat me to it. Obviously, that had zombies running around and not really acting like we were used to, at least as far as your films went. So I have to ask, are you against the idea of remakes then, which is such a popular trend in horror today, where it seems like there's less originality?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I'm automatically against remakes or sequels, but I just think that if something is really done well to begin with, why remake it, right? It's just there's this mentality among the money guys which says that a proven title is better than something new, which of course I would campaign against that. But that's just the way it goes. I had a couple of films of mine have been remade. Day of the Dead, terribly.
That was a very bad one. I think it was direct to video, if I recall.
Yeah, and actually there was a Creepshow that neither Steve King nor I had anything to do with, and there was a remake of The Crazies, and the remake of Dawn. Dawn, for example. Dawn was so obviously a satire about consumerism. That was the first shopping mall that I had ever seen, the first indoor shopping mall that I had ever seen, that Pittsburgh had ever seen. And that's what it was about. Now, when the remake of Dawn, shopping malls were on every street corner already. So there was nothing really to say about it. So I didn't think there was a reason to make that movie to begin with, other than to try to capitalize on the title.
Yeah, and I suppose at the end of the day, it is a business, at least, Hollywood, in contrast with a young filmmaker like yourself making a piece of art on your own outside of the studio system like you did with the original Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, well, thank you for calling it art. And of course, I do think of it as a kind of an art. And I just would much rather try to do something original. I've done 6 zombie films, and I don't think any one of them looks like the other.
So yes, guys, we did unfortunately get cut off there in the middle of my interview at Scarefest with Mr. George Romero, but, Murphy's Law and technology, we were just thankful to get the chance to actually talk to him. I've been Jaime and Fuego, and thank you so very much for watching us here on The Horror Show. Remember to check us out at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We are on all of those social media sectors, and I urge all of you, until you get to see us next time, to stay scared!